Yeah.
That was 7 and 7 is the current single by Alice Cooper, the live version.
Yes. The Dead version is a whole different thing.
Not
It's very quiet.
Where did you get your sense of theatre? Did you get it from your father? Because theatre exists within the churches, within anywhere. I mean,
Yes, and my grandfather, too. My grandfather was the president of the church for around 50 years. He actually performed exorcisms in the Indian reservations in the 30s, in the 40s. And then my father became a minister, and my father was the same way. My dad's a lot cooler, though. He knows the top 40, and he knows Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He knows more about the top 40 than I do. You know, he calls me up and says, hey, you know, that Aerosmith record sounds just exactly like something you did you know, I say, really? And that's how together he is. I would probably be a great preacher.
But you are very much a great sort of preacher. I mean,
except that I hate preaching. I don't preach anything. They tried to get me to talk against alcohol, which I won't. I won't talk against alcohol because I needed that experience. If I wouldn't have gone through the alcohol thing, I don't think Alice wouldn't have been here right now, because that gave me a whole sense of confidence that developed this guy, this new one. I had 10 years of drinking. 8 years were great. 8 years were fantastic. I did my best work. School's out, billion-dollar babies, everything behind alcohol. 2 years, though, the last 2 years is when the effects of the drug, alcohol, finally got to me, and I was so dependent on it at that point then, I didn't think I was worth anything if I didn't have the bottle. See, it's the trick right there. So those last 2 years were pitiful for me. I mean, you know, I was trying to be Alice. I hated it because it represented this. I had to drink whiskey, 2 bottles of whiskey a day. I hated the taste of it, but I had to have it, and I was throwing up blood all the time and never told anybody. And so finally, when I quit drinking, it was like the old extremist thing. My best friend was my worst enemy. So I quit completely.
Well, it could be said that you were being punished for a lot of the things that you seemingly had propagated on stage, like killing babies and various things.
Yeah, well, fun things. Yeah,
and busting people up, and you know.
Yeah, only those things were all. You know, kids are a lot smarter than their parents. You know, I mean, every generation the kids get a lot smarter. The kids always took it as sensationalism and took it as being a catharsis, if anything else. They'd see Alice would do it for them. Nobody ever fights at our concerts. We never have any fights at our concerts. Did you want to fight after seeing Clockwork Orange? No, they did it for me. I was exhausted after that. That's exactly what this show does. We get up there, and most things that have been attributed to me, nice way of putting it, were me suggesting it and never doing it.
Or just opening up the avenue for debate.
Right, and letting the audience let their imaginations, you know, see what they want to see. I've had reviews. I've sat down and read a review from a guy, and 3 or 4 of the things that never happened, you know, never ever were on stage. And this guy's imagination, just like everybody else's, totally ran. You know, he was watching it, and he had a stream of consciousness going behind his thing. At the end of the show, he saw something totally different. He even added things that didn't happen. And I'd say, where did that come in? Where did the dog come in? You know, this guy saw a big white dog somewhere, and I said, this guy's hallucinating or something, you know. And I called the guy up, and I said, there was no dog on stage. I actually called the reviewer up. I said, you know, it was a great review, and, you know, I said, but we didn't have any dog. He said, sure you did. And, you know, I said, geez, you know what? Some people that are really out there, I wonder what they're seeing, you know. All I'm doing, I'm providing the ammunition. I'm providing the gasoline for the imagination. And that's fun. Because every night I have fun doing it, and I have fun getting out my anger. My psychiatrist said, he saw the show, and he said, what is Alice so angry about? I said, I have no idea. I'm Fred McMurray off stage. But when I get to the stage, I've become, you know, Godzilla, you know, because I own it. And the thing is, that not only do I have the vehicle, but I somehow have the knowledge of how to do it, to manipulate, and to entertain myself, and to never hurt anybody. And to stay within the boundaries of the law.
That's a favorite track of mine, and this is the legendary Alice Cooper. And I think for once, and it doesn't happen that often, the word legendary on the marquee front is allowable.
I keep forgetting that I'm a legend. You know, I have to be reminded all the time. I go to grocery stores, and people still hide their children and things, you know. And it's because all of those things are a great confusion. I love confusion. I love the blur of the whole thing, and I forgot all the things that have been said about me.
Now take away the visual side of what you do and listen to the lyrics of the songs that you've written or co-written over the years and put together.
Sometimes you say that it might be too clever, but geez, sometimes I go, wow, that's great. You know, that little thing right in there, I just go, oh, I hope somebody gets that. You know, I just hope somebody gets that. In Aspirin Damage, you know, the song Aspirin Damage, there were some lines in there, and I said, I know they're not going to get these, you know. Something about stacks of Excedrin, and he was naming all the different kinds of aspirins. Doctor took him down the hallway. He says, you'll have to take off your shirt, your tie and all. You know, tie and all. You know, and I just to get it in there, you know, and I said, nobody will get that, you know.
Well, they might not get it here because Tylenol is, I don't think, sold in this
Which,
country.
yeah, no, but in the States, you know, I said Tylenol. Get it? And I even had Tylenol? Oh, Tylenol. You know. And it ends up with, she's an aspirin junkie. She's got a Bayer on her back. Which to me was a funny little thing on words. To me, it was just, I like playing with words like that, you know.
Only Women has got to be one of the most sensitive songs ever written.
Yeah, and that's from TV. That's from Out of Context TV. I just happened to hear it out of the, I don't even know if that's what they said, but that's what it sounded like to me, and that's how I do write. I will keep the TV on. In fact, why isn't the TV on right now?
It is in the other room.
Oh, okay, good. My heart stopped for a second. Out of context, I heard that phrase, or maybe it wasn't even that phrase. It sounded like that. Only women bleed, and I went, phew. To me, that was a profound thing to say because it meant 3 or 4 different things. But to me, it was very it was Tennessee Williams. To me, it's a very Tennessee Williams kind of thing to it.
At one time, it was mooted in this country, in the UK, that it was not to be played on the radio.
Really?
And that is true.
It was a hit by some girl here, too. Julie Cummington.
That's right.
With it.
That's right.
Yeah. That's funny, because they probably thought that I was trying to get away with something to do with the menstrual cycle, which maybe I was. Man got his woman.
That was Only Women. That was a big hit for Alice Cooper, just in case you didn't know. I'm sure you did. How's the snake?
The snake is not named Arnold. Everybody said the snake's name was Arnold. The snake's name is Angel, and it's a her, and she's pissed. She's really mad.
She really is.
Oh, man.
She's only on one number now on the show.
Oh, yeah, well, you know, she's...
Getting old?
No. It's just, you know, she's, you know, she lives in Beverly Hills now. She doesn't eat rats. She eats mink. You know, she's very arrogant. You know, she says, I'll do one number. Do you understand? Sure. And the thing that makes me so mad is she gets a bigger hand than me every night. Where's the snake? You know, as long as the snake's there, everything's fine. Guys, don't worry about the music. The snake's here, okay? You know, being upstaged every night by a snake. And she knows it. She knows that she's the snake. And she gets up there and she looks around, you know. I don't feel like being clever tonight. And she'll look dumb for me. And I'll say, no, you got to look vicious or something. No, I'm just lying.
Complacent snake, huh?
Yeah. No, we used to have a snake named Eva Marie Snake. That was really a good name for a snake.
Blonde.
But, yeah, she was a blonde. That's true. Bleach blonde.
Alice, of all the tracks that you've ever recorded, what's your favorite?
I think the most relentless one that I really like, I even brought the guy from Cheap Trick, Rick Nielsen, in for this one. He wears a sweater and the whole thing. Sirius. I took this series on from the Inside album. It just keeps going and going and going, and I love it.
1978, that's Alice Cooper and Sirius. Last night he finished a 100-date world tour. Thought he sounded remarkably perky during that interview. Many thanks to Tommy Vance. Okay, last record time.